Welcome to Primary 1 at Invergowrie Primary School.
Hello, my name's Mrs. Lawson and I can't wait to be your teacher after the summer holidays. I thought as a start we would read a story. This story is called Billy and the Big New School. Billy was starting at a new school. It was very exciting, but it made him feel a little bit funny inside. On the Sunday before he started, Billy didn't feel like any breakfast at all. He kept thinking about that great big school and all the other great big children. Billy began to wish that he could stay at home with his mum. "You're just like a little bird who doesn't want to leave his nest," said Billy's mum, giving him a big hug. Billy took the rest of his breakfast out onto the bird table and waited for the birds, who were his friends. The birds weren't scared of Billy because he was small like them, and he knew how to stand quite still. Billy knew all the different birds. He had made pictures of them all for the kitchen walls. His mum had helped him write their names: blackbird, starling, pigeon, thrush, and sparrow. That Sunday morning, Billy talked to the birds. He told them about his new school. He told them that he was worried in case he got lost or started to cry. He told the birds that his mum had bought him new shoes with difficult laces. "I wish I was a bird," said Billy. "Then I wouldn't have to worry about school at all, or shoelaces." Suddenly the birds started making a terrible noise. Billy saw a new bird sitting on the ground. It was a tiny little sparrow. All the other birds were picking on it and trying to chase it away. But the little sparrow couldn't fly properly yet. It wasn't really ready to look after itself. It was the smallest, grubbiest, weediest, most dusty bird Billy had ever seen. Billy called his mum. Billy's mum ran out and chased the other birds away. Then they carried the little sparrow inside. The kitchen was warm, but the sparrow was shivering. Billy found the box from his new shoes. He made a bed of cotton wool and put the bird gently inside. He could feel its little heart beating. Then Billy gave the bird a bowl of water and a very tiny piece of bread. But the bird didn't seem hungry. So Billy sat and talked gently to the sparrow. All that Sunday, the sparrow lay in the box and watched Billy with a big round eye. And all that same Sunday, Billy's mum got things ready for the next day at the new school. She wrote his name, Billy, on his clothes, on his bag, on his pencil case, and in the new shoes with the difficult laces. That night Billy had a scary dream. He dreamt that he was a little bird who couldn't fly, and that the other birds were picking on him. Then his mum came into the bedroom and gave him a big hug, and Billy felt a lot better. In the morning, Billy woke up so early for school that it was still dark. He'd forgotten all about the little sparrow until he walked into the kitchen and saw it sitting there in the middle of the floor. It had hopped out of the shoebox all by itself. "It must be feeling better," said Billy's mum. "I think it's time to let it go." The bird had to go into the big world, just like Billy. So gently, Billy picked up the little bird and opened the window. "You have to fly away," he whispered. "You have to learn to look after yourself, just like me." The little bird looked up at Billy. It seemed to understand. Suddenly it hopped onto the windowsill and flew away into the sky. After breakfast, Billy took his new bag and his mum helped him with his shoelaces. Then it was time for school. Billy's teacher was called Mrs. Berry. She was very nice. She showed Billy where to hang his coat, and where the toilets were, and the sink to wash his hands, and the paints, and the computer, and the playhouse, and the reading corner. Billy even found a big book all about birds. Some other children were new as well. After a while, another boy came and looked at Billy's book too. Then Billy had a friend. After lunch, Mrs. Berry talked to the class about animals. She asked if anyone had a pet. Daisy had a dog. Callum had a cat. Jeremy had a gerbil. Wendy had a worm. Tom and Maddie, the twins, had a tortoise. Billy was very interested. "What about you, Billy?" said Mrs. Berry. Billy thought for a moment. Then he slowly stood up. In a tiny voice, he began to tell everyone all about his bird table. Then he told them about the poor little sparrow, and about how he had put it in a shoebox until it was ready to fly. When he had finished the story, Mrs. Berry began to clap, and so did all the big children in Billy's class. Then Billy sat down. His face was bright red, but his smile was the biggest in the school. That night, Billy had another dream, but this one wasn't scary at all. He dreamt he could fly over the house, over the garden, over the town, and all the way over the big school, just like a bird. Billy and the birds flew high above the world and turned somersaults over the moon. A few days later, Billy brought his new friend home from school. They rolled around in the garden and got all dirty, but Billy's mum didn't mind at all. Billy and his friend had a picnic. They were very hungry. All the birds came looking for crumbs. Suddenly Billy saw one bird that looked almost exactly like the sparrow from the shoebox. But he couldn't quite be sure, because this sparrow was bigger, and this sparrow was braver, and this sparrow was happier, and this sparrow had lots of friends. Just like Billy. That is a brilliant story all about starting school. I hope you're all really excited to start in our Primary 1 class after the summer holidays. I can't wait to meet you all again and to get to know all about you. Have a lovely summer and we'll see you all soon.